Hello, my name's Patrick, and welcome to my show. Today I'm going to talk about Azerbaijan and Armenia have a conflict going on, and the Armenians are being pushed back. Uh, this has a long history, and it goes way back to 1917. So, and it actually goes back further, but I'll say it really quick. The Armenians lost about 1 million people in a genocide the Turks did on them. Turkey is a large country, it has a big population. Armenian is a small country, very small, a few million people, all right? And Azerbaijan is a small country. Azerbaijan has a lot of oil and a lot of transfer of energy, like oil and natural gas, is going through Azerbaijan. So that's some of the things going on. The Turks killed all the Armenians to make volumes of information brief. It was basically culturally the Armenians were educated. All right, so at a very early stage. So when you go back to 1900, the Armenians, all their population could read and write. They did this because they wanted to read the Bible. They are a Christian country and people. They're kind of high altitude. They're a little bit up there. And the Turks were not. They had a sultan. They had the Ottoman Empire. And what happened was the sultan borrowed a lot of money from the Armenians. Now, the Armenians were in Constantinople. There was a large Armenian population there, even though the country itself is way over by Syria and Iran and things like that, up north. And so that's the background. And, the Armenians kept saying in the last, 50 years, well, you guys committed a genocide. A, you got to say you're sorry and acknowledge you did a genocide against us. And B, you owe us some money, reparations. And the Turks are always angry about this. They're saying, well, we didn't do it. It was gruesome. It was really a gruesome thing. And a lot of Armenians lived in Turkey at the time. They had villages and things. And that's the background. So here we are. There was a war back in 1990 between Azerbaijan and Armenia. And this is something different altogether. This was because of Stalin. So when the Soviet Union took control of Armenia, Georgia, Azerbaijan, they kind of redrew the lines of these countries a little bit. And between Armenia and Azerbaijan, Stalin did this. He kind of I want it to go look like this, and he redrew it, and it's a big mess to this day. And also, there are some other regions of Russia that have the same issue. It was just because of Stalin. And countries that benefited administratively from drawing the lines, they want to keep those lines. But if you go back to 1917, they're different. Anyway, so in 1990, after that war between Armenia, and they're small countries again. They're like, you're talking 3 to 4 million people. Not big. And it's kind of open terrain. There's not a lot of trees and things. And Azerbaijan is on the Caspian. So a lot of countries, the problem is a lot of countries are involved. It's a mess. It could get out of control really, really fast. And the Armenians don't like the Russians. But they're in this dangerous situation. They're outgunned. And so they allowed a Russian division to come into Armenia, and it's there. It's like, I think, west of the capital, near the Turkish border. And this way, the Russians have a pincer movement on Turkey. The Russians kind of like saying the Turks are insane, and they are. Erdogan is not right in his head. He has all these Turkish forces like in Libya and Syria and and everybody knows they're kind of behind starting this war against Armenia. The people they killed in 1917. So the Turks are just being pigs here, and Erdogan wants the greater glory of the Ottoman Empire. That's what's driving it in the back of his head. So kind of everybody knows what's up. So I went through and I dowsed, and it's Turkey is behind the scenes, is a provocateur of all this. Armenians themselves are behind this. They have oil money. They're well off. And they went off and bought all these armaments. So they're still smarting from their defeat in 1990. So they want to go take all this land back plus some because we have a bigger army with a bigger push. So when this started, this conflict, was it about a month ago or so? I dowsed it, and it said Azerbaijanis started it, and the Armenians will eventually prevail. So I just did it again, and Iran did not start this. Now, Iran borders both countries, Azerbaijan and, what's the name? Armenia. And don't forget, Armenians are Christians and the Azerbaijanis are basically Muslim. And Muslim Iran is not part of this. They did not push for it, and they're not really involved. Some of the armaments and missiles have landed in Iran. Iran told them, both countries, don't let your shells land in our country. But it's kind of an open terrain. There's no place to hide. And it's called Nagorno-Karabakh. It's an enclave in Azerbaijan, and it has about 30,000 Armenians live there. Probably they're all gone now. And the whole thing is kind of piecemeal, and it goes back to the Soviet Union is the problem. So Azerbaijan is starting this to regain territory and prestige. Right now, the Armenians probably are losing. And I saw an article just before I did this saying the Armenians are kind of outgunned mostly by the drones. So this is the technology of the drones coming forward and having a big impact on the battlefield. You know, usually when one side gets an advantage, another side will figure a way around it eventually. But right now, the Armenians are being pushed back. A lot of casualties are very high for such small countries. And I have the Armenians losing right now. But in about a month, 3 to 4 or 5 weeks, I don't know, the Armenians will prevail. They're going to do something. And even though they have crummy equipment, maybe we give it to them, maybe the Russians. The Russians had good relations with both countries, but if you go into the heart of the Russians, they'll probably side with the Armenians. They don't want to do this. They don't want to do it openly, but they had a minimum of 5,000 troops in Armenia. It's away from the battle. See, that's it. It's not near the line. The Russian troops are on the other side of the country, on the Turkish border, and Russia knows the score. Russia knows Turkey's behind us, and they have this agreement to get out of the Black Sea. You remember that? And you go through the straits that goes through Constantinople and Istanbul. Have you seen it? The ships, it's not really that wide, but that's how the Russians get their warm water port. So it's critical. So you see how much stuff is involved? It's just, everything's there. There is an agreement. And it was 1920, I think, they made the agreement. It basically say those straits are open all the time. No one can close them. And I don't even think the Russians would acknowledge someone closing them. They have to be open for their trade. And the Crimea and all those areas of the Russia, it has to get out. And that's why they took Crimea. I mean, the Russians are easy to decipher. They have certain things that are critical to their nation state, to their survival, to the Russian people. And The Turks have been poking them. Now, the Turks have said, well, we might close the strait. Well, that's the end of Turkey, in a way. The Russians will not allow it to be straight. And they would take out Istanbul if they had to. It's serious stuff. So, we're back in Armenia, which is further to the east of Istanbul. And the Turks are going after the Armenians again. It's really mind-boggling. It's like really stupid. But don't forget, Erdogan is mentally off. He wants this Ottoman Empire, and he's going for it. And I think the United States will probably secretly back Armenia, probably secretly give them money, and the Russians will probably secretly give them weapons and money and support, and especially for satellite info. And I wouldn't be, there's probably a surprise coming. The Armenians will do something daring. Because as Armenians will see it, this is an existential. Their whole existence as a people is at stake. If you don't fight now, you don't exist as a people. They can be carved up, spread out, and be refugees everywhere, and Armenia will just disappear. So this is it. And this is why they won in 1990. They had the bigger fighting spirit. They just think, well, we're not going to die. They made that decision, we're not going to die. And I'm sure they're through every man they could find in Armenia is at the front. They're just going for it. And if we're going to have a turnaround in the battlefield, the Armenians are going to do something drastic. And that's my report. That's my insight. And I did douse the Armenians will prevail. I wouldn't be surprised they go after the infrastructure of Baku, which is the capital, and all the oil pipelines, roads and bridges. Remember, this is sort of mountainous. It's hilly terrain over there, and you need the bridges, and they just might go after the infrastructure. And, the Azerbaijanis, I don't think they thought this through. They thought they could get some weapons, and everybody sold them weapons, except I don't know if the United States did, but the Israelis did, and the Russians did, especially the drones. Everybody sold them drones. And it's having an impact on the battlefield now. They got better planes, fighter planes. They got everything, better artillery. And I think the Azerbaijanis, if I was them and the people of my country were at stake, you go for the jugular. You go in for something a la Israel. You remember the commandos the Israelis did? They always do these daring raids. They trapped the Third Army during the 1973 war. But that's it. So you're going to see some daring activity by the Armenians because that's what they do. And they might, there's so much you can do. I don't know. I didn't douse it. I'm not into it. I'm just saying, I would say Azerbaijan has more to lose. And the government, usually when you lose a war, you lose, the government is thrown to the dogs because everybody's looking for so that's that. And don't forget Syria. Erdogan is in Syria. He's meeting off with the Russians there. The Russians are on this side, and there are actually Syrian. I don't know how this worked. There's Syrian troops in Azerbaijan, and Russia is an ally of Syria, so they're going to have discussions, I'm sure. Like, how are you guys using your people, and we supported you with our life for the last 5 years. So it's really a complicated mess. But I think the Armenians, they are not the aggressor, and they will prevail. And we'll know this in about 4 weeks. All right? And I would say, like I said before, I think the United States and Russia will probably support Armenia. And as would the Russians intervene and protect the capital and the heartland of Armenia? They might. I don't know, but the Russian troops are there. They're not part of the conflict, and I wouldn't be surprised already they increase their division to 2 divisions or something. The Russians are not going to let Armenia fall to Turkey. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You just know the Russian psyche. We discussed this before. They're going to survive. They're like the Armenians. We're going to survive. You're not going to do it. The United States doesn't have that psyche. It's being woken up now in the United States. The soul is slowly waking up that we have been taken over. And that existential takeover. And we're going to... That's why this rioting is going to increase. So that's right. We'll go to Amy Barrett. Her so far her confirmation hearings and everything have been okay. You know, I wouldn't say they're worse than Kavanaugh. And I do have the energy being behind her. It's going to be more dramatic. And it's not over yet. She'll get voted in, and there'll probably be riots. Kavanaugh, there wasn't really any riots, but I think this is all part of the election as well. So her turmoil, her confirmations causing will be greater than Kavanaugh, even though we haven't seen it yet. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.